Hey guys, this is Josh from Grapplezilla, and today I'm lucky to have a great guest with Les Allen from LA Hybrid Catch Wrestling. Les is an awesome catch wrestler. He's actually an awesome overall martial artist. He's great at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, great at freestyle wrestling, has a great striking background, world class. He's fought in Pancrase, fought all over the world, and part of the Lions Den at the time. And yeah, here we go. So Les, how you doing, mate? How's it going?
Good, thank you, mate. Hope you're okay. You doing all right?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing fine, thank God. So Pancrase, man, you're old school. Lions Den. So how, a
Yes.
guy from England, how did you get to Lions Den? I got to know this.
Oh man, it was crazy. I think I think the same as a lot of people back then. They saw Hoist Gracie versus Ken Shamrock, and they were like, "Oh, that's something I'd like to do. I think I could do that." So after watching the films, I remember I think it was maybe UFC 2 or 3 or something, and I was watching it. I think at the end there was a number, and Ken said something like, "If you want to come and try out, then phone this number." So I was like, "Yep, can I come down and do this?" And he's like, "Yeah." So they give me an idea of what I had to do, and I just trained my ass off, got my backpack, paid my money up for my air ticket, and just took myself over there and yeah, give it a go.
So for those of you who are listening who might not know what the Lions Den was or the significance of it in MMA history, basically you had kind of the two first real teams or let's say families. One was the Gracie family, of course, and the second one was the Lions Den, which was associated with the Japanese Pancrase and Ken
Mm.
Shamrock, of course.
Yeah.
Did you do any grappling before you went to the Lions Den?
Yeah, I'd kind of I'd done quite a bit. Most of the stuff that I did, I had to pick up on my own because there wasn't that many people back then that really did it. So I had to kind of wing it a lot and experiment. Just basically, just giving it a go, really. So I came up with a lot of the techniques and studied, quite a few of the techniques beforehand, before I went there. But obviously, most of the knowledge I got was from the US and Japan.
Wow. And were your first pro fights in Japan or the US?
Um, I had some I had professional fights in the US. There were fights in the UK, but they weren't. I mean, they were professional in as much as I got paid. But there weren't. I mean, these were like brand new organizations that were related to there was an organization that was related to rings. So I did got a UK belt for that, and then it was after that I went to California.
And it was Lodi, California. I heard that the training
Yeah,
sessions that were crazy, man.
yeah. I mean, like the tryout itself was crazy. Yeah, they were tough. You just get shit beat out of you, and then obviously you just. I mean, they don't do it now so much. I mean, there's a big thing. I was watching. It's like you don't. They don't really spar anymore. They don't do heavy sessions. They don't hit you anymore. I think it's all because of the brain injury thing. I think anybody that does it in the first place doesn't have a freaking brain anyway, so it makes no odds, does it? But yeah, I mean, you get the 4 ounce gloves. I mean, back then they were Harbinger gloves, so you just rip the pad out the top, and then cut a few holes in the knuckles, and then go at it.
Oh my God. And I was reading your striking background's quite interesting. So you have you saw Tang Soo Do, Kyokushin karate, Kempo, and Muay Thai and boxing together?
Yeah. I did. I trained in a lot of the disciplines. Back in the day, there was I think Master Scanner held classes locally, and another guy under the name of Ralph Cutler. He was quite prominent. So I'd done some Thai stuff there, and then I'd done Kyokushin. Some of that I did in Japan. So when I was ordained as a monk, and I was fortunate enough to have kind of hooked up with a guy that had done Kyokushin. So we kind of trained with each other there for quite a while. So yeah, it was great. It was pretty. it was one of those kind of like, it's almost like a scene out of Bloodsport or something,
Oh
but it was
yeah.
real.
Wait, so you
um,
were ordained as a monk, like a Zen
ye-
Buddhist monk?
yeah. I went to do like basic training there, and so I was at the top of a mountain in Fukuyama, which is like Hiroshima Prefecture. So it wasn't. It's not. It wasn't like the Shaolin stuff, you know. I didn't have to like carry loads of buckets of water and dip my hands in ashes. It was a lot more kind of aesthetic. So it was like long periods of meditation and chanting. But in my free time, I would train. So yeah, when I would train, it would like, you know, be there weren't banana trees, so you know, we were kicking like Japanese aces and planting mushrooms, not the magic ones, but shiitake. So obviously we had to you know, eat eat what we planted. It'd have been good if they were magic, but yeah. So what else? Yeah, I mean, so and I like it wasn't. Yeah, like I think in winter time it was pretty cold. I mean, there was just like rice paper doors, and you just have like a thin mattress, and you've just got like a box room. So you have to kind of your mental discipline has to be there, and if it's not, you have to make it go there, or you're not going to cut it. You know what I mean? You're not really gonna
Yeah.
manage to survive really. Um, so yeah, in winter it's just literally you're seeing it snow, and it's like rice paper between you and the snow. So there's no point in even having a door there, to be honest. But yeah, you know, and then you'd go in, you kind of, you were told not to go out because there's lots of wild dogs, you know, in the mountains and stuff. And then the weird, cool thing, there was like, there was another temple across a couple of mountains, like across. So if anybody got ill, they'd go over to that one. And the guy there, it was an old monastery, but it was like, it was a monastery that was to cater for like 200 monks, but that it kind of been dilapidated, and there was only one monk that was there, but he was like super knowledgeable in like, you know, medicine, and he'd have like loads of jars with like, I don't know, like snake gallbladders in and this and that. So if you were ill, you'd go over there and then get treated for whatever it was. Fortunately, I was all right. I think the worst thing I got was a tree dropped on my foot, but other than that, I was pretty sound. So I didn't have to eat any snake balls or anything like that.
Well, snake balls aren't, I mean, I'm not a snake ball eater, but I'd imagine they're not so good. But, you know, so I'm taking it that the Japanese MMA culture is a little bit different over there than
Well,
England.
that I mean, well, yeah, the MMA culture is. I mean, in terms of the temple stuff, that wasn't really MMA. That was just my own kind of journey based on, you know, kind of my struggles as a kid, and with my dad having non-Hodgkin's and motor neurone. He died when I was young, and you know, kind of my education in life was watching him slowly deteriorate over about 7 years, and when you're that age, that when that becomes your education, you grow up really quick. So you have very little in common with other kids your age, and you become a bit of a target in so many aspects. You're a lot older than they are, so you understand responsibility, and you understand the fact that there are things more important than fighting in school. And you know, like I say, you become a bit tight. You're easily bullied. So I think when that happened, I had a lot of questions in my mind as to, you know, why this happened to me. Why, you know, why did the guy upstairs put me in that situation? What have I done wrong? You know, I didn't really know anything. What did my dad do wrong? So rather than jump on the bandwagon of any particular religion, you know, I wanted to find out the real truth behind, you know, the method of, you know, cause and effect of the science behind it really. And nothing really ticked those boxes other than obviously Zen Buddhism, with it being, you know, discipline and controlling the mind and being in a place where you can find serenity and calmness. And then from there, as a framework, you can branch out and you can look at the other, you know, other disciplines and other messages that are brought by these, you know, pretty interesting guys that have been on this planet since day one, you know? And I think for my journey, when I was, I mean, when I was in the temple, I was heavily into martial arts. And I think because of kind of developing ADHD through the trauma and just being like on a high state of anxiety, you know, high state of alert all the time, I think training and doing martial arts and looking at myself and focusing on that kind of put me into a position where it became my path. So, the abbot Dosho-san said to me, he says, it's pointless you being here, because until you uh, until you exhaust this energy that you've got in terms of martial arts, until you exhaust this, you're never going to find that way. And it's um, it most people think that becoming a monk is just kind of giving yourself to God, or whatever it is, but it's more like finding your way, and finding your way doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to be at the top of a mountain at a temple. There are many different ways of finding your way, as long as your head's in the game and your communication is with the best part, the best part of yourself, the highest expression of yourself. Then you're going to evolve to be, that monk eventually, So he basically kicked me out. He said, piss off. Says, you got to sort out your life and fight for a bit. And I was like, right, okay. So I did that. And yeah, that's when like I say, that's when I thought the best expression I can find, the best test for me is to go head to head with somebody in a cage with two rules: no eye gouging, no biting, and then see if I can improve myself and my technique and my spirit, my fortitude, to the point where I don't fear anything anymore, even death.
Well, definitely. I mean, that kind of foundation kind of builds the internal strength that you needed to become a fighter, right? I would
Hmm.
imagine.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, did you find that during, I mean, as a child, I can definitely imagine that was very challenging, but it also gave you the resilience in order to move forward. You know,
Yeah.
now I was kind of curious. So what did you go back and forth to fight in Pancrase? Like you went back to the UK and came back to or were you living
No,
in
I
Japan?
think I think when I went to the temple, I was like my early days before I started competing. So after that, I'd come home, and it was at that point that I was actually on holiday somewhere at the time. I was staying at a place in Barbados. Actually, it was kind of cool, and I dated this girl back then, and she was fucking loaded. Dad was like like super rich, and she had
Full
a
meal
house in
deal.
Barbados, and I was just, yeah, man, it was mint. I don't know why the fuck I screwed that one off, but hey, we all we all drive down different roads, don't we? But yeah, I was like, I just rented some videos, and yeah, VHS. You remember them, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, I was like watching like all the UFCs, and that's when I was like, right, I'm gonna do this, And then that's when I kind of like all that kind of ended, and then I was like, so like I say, I just saved up, and then just to get the ticket and whatnot, and then I went to Sac, so I landed in Sacramento, and I got the Greyhound, which was a fucking experience. And
The
then, yeah,
toilet on those
just
things
went.
is an
Oh
experience.
man, I couldn't believe it. I think I was riding with like, yeah, a few folks, and I think probably a barrel of piss swilling up and down the from the back to the front of the bus. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then so I kind of rocked up, and Bob was there, and um, I stayed there. There's a couple other guys that were trying out, and there was at that time there was Mikey Burnett.
Oh yeah.
Fucking awesome, awesome, awesome
Boxer.
fight. He was just like, he was so good, man. Such a good wrestler as well, and like super strong for his size. And then there was Jerry Bolander was there, Pete Williams was there. Obviously, Frank was there, Ken was there,
Vernon?
Vernon was there. Um, I don't know, I think that was it at the time. So I think Frank had just come back from winning Extreme. So that was Hawaii. Um, and Ken, I think Ken was it the second time? I think Ken was his talks with WWF, if I can remember rightly. Yeah. And then Mikey I think he'd just fought Pat Militek at that time, I think roundabout. Pete Williams had just knocked out Coleman. So that was
Yeah.
a big one. Everybody was on a high then.
Was Tellingman
Um,
there? Like Trey Tellingman yet?
I didn't see Trey. No, I knew he was like there, but I didn't see him. So I think I don't know what he was doing at that time. So yeah. Um, they're the guys that took me through my paces. I think all of them dropped out. There's a few others, and all of them dropped out. Apart from me. So I think first couple of bit, like half of them couldn't even do the main conditioning bit. They all kind of dropped out, and then it was just me. So everybody was watching me get shit kicked out of me. So nah, it wasn't really that bad actually. I was so close to getting Mikey, because Ken said to me, I'd done the 500 squats, 506 sit ups, 500 leg lifts,
Yeah.
tiger push-ups, pull-ups to fail. So literally, like, they just rinse you. So you're basically on your last nerves, really. And then I had to do a round with Vernon kickboxing, and I had to do a round with Mikey MMA. So Ken's shouting his head off at me. Ken's like, fucking blah, do this, you do that, da 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 da. And I was like, man, this guy, it's like hard work. Give it a rest, like proper full on. But Frank was so cool. He was like, he didn't want anybody to know, but he kept giving me little nudges, going, yeah, you're okay, you're doing good. Like, keep doing it, keep going. And Ken would shout at him, say, no, don't talk to him. You're not allowed to talk to him. And Frank would be like, oh, all right, whatever. So, anyway, story down, and I jumped in with Vernon, and Ken said, if you knock him out, then you don't have to do any more. So I was like, right, I'm going to try and knock him out. So I just fucking launched in a load of leg kicks on him, and then I swung a big round kick to his head, and I clocked him square in the head, and knocked him a little bit. I think his arm went down, and I was like, oh yeah, brilliant. And then he just got back up, and I was like, fuck. So then he just went, well, I mean, I was like covering up, so that round was over, and then I had to jump in with Mikey, and Ken said the same thing. He said, if you can tap him out, then you don't have to go anymore. I was like, fuck's sake, right? I'm like, right, come on. So Mikey got on me, right? So I managed to he got me in a leg lock. So I managed to reverse it, and I ended up getting him in a heel hook. Ken was
nice.
so fucking mad at Mikey. He's shouting at him. He's like, don't you fucking tap. And Mikey's like, fucking looks like he's just about to cry. And he's like, do you fucking tap? You're out of here. And I'm like, fucking try to squeeze his fucking heel hook on. I can feel Mikey's knee going. I'm like, good. And then Ken's like, roll off the mat. So it's like some big fight. I'm like, dude, come on. What do you mean roll off the mat? Just let me have it. So anyway, Mikey rolled off the mat, and I was like, by that time I was fucked. So I was just trying to hang in there. So I'm hanging in there. Mikey jumps on me, chokes me out. I wake up. I'm like, are we done? And Ken's like, no. I just see Ken's face like this. Get up. I'm like, fucking open my eyes again. And then Mikey gets me again, chokes me out again. And then I see Ken's face like that. And I'm like, oh, fucking hell. So I'm like, when's this going to fucking end? So I think I got choked out about 3 times. But yeah, but at the end, I'm like shattered, and they were like, yeah, you did it. You passed. And I'm like, good. I'm like completely drained. I think my nervous system crashed for about 2 days. I was absolutely fucking shredded.
Oh,
but
yeah. Was that before Pancrase 11 and 10?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I
Yeah, so
got
that
the
was before
timeline.
Pancrase.
And then so
Yeah,
you went to Pancrase 10, 11.
yeah. So from there, so this is what happened. So this is so I went after that. I went home to sort my visa out. Then I gave Bob a call, and I was like, okay, I'm coming back over. I gave the house a call. I said, I'm coming back over. And they were like, Bob said to me, okay, well, there's a bit of a problem. And I'm like, what's that? And he goes, well, you got a couple of choices. Like, Ken's gone to WWF, I think, or there's been something that happened. At that point, he didn't really tell me what's gone on. And he goes, if you want, you can go to San Diego because Frank's there. And I'm like, okay. Or you can come here to the house, and I'm setting up a new thing called Shamrock 2000. And I was like, okay, right. Well, he goes, we'd love to have you. So I kind of assumed that was the Lions there. But anyway, so I went there, and Bob's there, and Ken wasn't there, and Frank wasn't there. And then he proceeded to tell me that they'd fallen out.
Huh.
So I was like, fuck. So I didn't really know what to say. It was just like at that time it was a little bit odd. No, and Bob was a lovely guy, and he was obviously like visually quite upset about it. Not teary about it, but you could see it in him. It was a big thing for him. It was a big thing for him, and because there was two guys. So anyway, so I was there, and I tried to help. I was in no position really to run. Anything that was really that had that kind of presence that the Lions Den did. I wasn't like prepared to run a gym and all the rest of it. So I said, I can't. I'll try and like help out. And at that time, there was Valery Ignatov. So he was like Bulgarian sambo champion. I think you might have heard of
Yeah,
him.
of
I know
course.
that he taught. Recently, I found out that he taught Nate Diaz his leg locks as well. But a lot of the leg locks that I got were from him.
Huh.
And to be honest, he couldn't punch or kick for shit. If it was an MMA fight, I could just rinse him within seconds. Grappling, he'd rip my leg off. Like his leg locks were just absolutely superb, and it was him that taught me how to just like the mechanics and basically the angles really to get them nice and precise. So hat off to him. He was one hell of a leg lock expert, and he'd done a competition. I think Sacramento Showdown at that point. There was Scott, someone other. He was in UFC, so he'd gone down there. I'd pulled one of my guys out from the UK that taught for me over in the UK. He did that Sac Showdown, so we did a couple of competitions there, and he did really well there. But then when he went into the UFC, he got absolutely obliterated by Evan Tanner.
Ooh,
He-
okay.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
that guy that just basically mounted him and just yeah. I think it was about 1,000 elbows in a second. So yeah, poor
Yeah, I
Val,
remember
but
that.
he was a lovely guy, really, really skilled at his thing. But so he was looking at Bob was kind of looking at him and me to kind of prop it up, and I kind of didn't really feel comfortable doing that. So anyway, this is when it went a bit a bit fucking haywire. So I was in Lodi at that time. It was a bit boring, and I'm like 30, round about like maybe 29, 30 years old, something like that. And I'm a young 29, 30. I've only just grown up and I'm like a lot older than 30. So, um, so I'm like, and I met this guy. He was part of the team as well, and he came to stay and he was training with us. And you might have heard of him. He was kind of prolific in terms of the cerebral part of MMA at that time, and he'd written a few books. His name's Erich Krause. You might have heard of
Yeah,
him.
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So lovely guy. I got on with him quite well, and he ended up pulling me over to Chico, California. Biggest mistake of my life. So Chico, California is like the biggest party town that
I
I'd
mean, it
ever
sounds
seen.
like a Chico, right? You'd
Oh
think that,
man,
where are you going,
yeah,
Chico?
yeah.
So
Well, I heard that. Yeah, of course you can. I heard that James Belushi's Animal House was like in Chico. It's filmed in Chico, as far as I know. So anyway, but I didn't
great
know all
movie.
this. Yeah, yeah. So I go to Chico anyway, and I'm like, he's like, come over to Chico. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get there, I'm like, what is this place? Um, Everybody, I think the average age was like 30 years old. I'd never like, all my life, I'd just been training. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm just gonna train. Fuck me, I was so fucking wrong. I ended up getting a job on the doors. Ended up working at a place called the Brickworks, and I was security for this place. Ended up being on the stage, and when the bands were playing, like Insane Clown Posse, there's like
Oh yeah.
Feeder, Oleander, there was all these like quite famous bands playing, and they'd put me on stage because I was kind of like, I'm not a tall guy, so I could kind of like they could still watch. Anytime anybody would come on stage, I'd double leg them and I'd fucking throw them back into the crowd. Mate, it got to the point where everybody knew me and they were like, stage guy, stage guy, stage guy. And I'm double legging and throwing them back into the crowd. So that was kind of cool as well. So, and then at that point, I think Erich, so yeah, I was going out. So I was like, was working the doors as well. And like, obviously I got into drinking. It wasn't something I'd done in my early years. So, you know, it was like, there were girls, there was like, you know, this kind of thing. So, and I'd never done that. So for me, it was kind of like my 20s came a bit later.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, when you're out there and you get a bit of attention, the James Bond accent comes out, and you know, it kind of one thing leads to another, and you're
Yeah.
enjoying your life a little bit, you know?
Of course.
So that kind of put a bit of a delay on things. But meanwhile, I was kind of teaching and still training at that time, and then I was doing fights. But yeah, I was kind of struggling for money, but I didn't really want to go anywhere because I was kind of enjoying it a little bit. And then I ended up staying in a trailer park in on Scott's Landing, which is a bar in Scott's Landing. And like, so I'd never experienced anything like this, mate. It was crazy. It was like, it was so surreal for me. I'd pretty much from one place into another, I'd just been put in these choice situations that, like, each one of these situations you could write a book about, you know? So I was on Sacramento River, living in a trailer park, watching all kinds of shit that you see on TV going on day in, day out. Meanwhile, working the doors, you know, St. Patrick's Day comes along. There's all this kind of stuff moving my attention away from what I'm supposed to be doing. Meanwhile, I'm doing what I can. And, yeah, so I think did IFC. I think I went to, I can't remember if it was Jacksonville or somewhere. Anyway, so I was training for a fight for IFC, and I was against Charles Diaz.
Mm.
And this was a fucker, this one. So I'd not realized what altitude was. Obviously, I live in England, so everything generally was like kind of quite high. In California, around that area, it's quite low in terms of altitude. And I went up to, I don't know where. I'm tempted to say Jacksonville. I think it was supposed to be at Jacksonville, but ended up going somewhere else, and it was Warriors Challenge 4 or something. And there's no footage of it or anything. I've tried looking for it, but I really want to find it. So weirdly enough, I ended up going there to fight, and I ended up going against one of Frank's guys at the time, which was Charles Diaz, and he
He's
fought
the guy who Ramiro Sato
Yes, I was
armbarred in like
just gonna
5
say,
seconds.
yeah, did a flying
Yeah.
armbar on him, and so yeah, mint move as well. And he was a pretty good fighter, but I hadn't trained for altitude, so I'd gone up there anyway. I think when I walked up to the cage, I was like blowing. I was like, "Fucking hell, this is not going to go well." So I ended up, we fought for 20 minutes, but like I think yeah, within 60 seconds I'd blown out. But so we picked gloves out of this. Basically, like, they had a box of gloves. And so we all picked a pair of gloves. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, there's some Harbinger ones there. I didn't look at them or test any of them. So there's a pair of Harbinger ones there. So I thought, I'm used to them. I'll pick them. And then I saw Charles Diaz pick these gloves up. And then he whacked his hand with them, and they were like really fucking heavy. I was like, I didn't think anything of it at the time because I'm a bit fucking doolally. So anyway, so did the fight. Straight out the gate, he hit me with this right. And I've never been knocked out, touch wood, apart from being choked out by Mikey Burnett. So he hit me across, and I went across the cage backwards and did a backward roll, and then went into the side of the cage on my feet. And I was like, fucking hell, that was a really hard hit for somebody that size. I was like,
Yeah.
it obviously didn't. And I look on his face after he'd hit me as well. He was in utter shock that he hadn't got me, and he didn't know what to do. So he just went into the clinch anyway. And he was fighting for a while, and then I ended up managing to get an outside trip on him. He tried suplexing, so I blocked it, and then ended up inside trip. And ended up in mount, and I'm smashing away at him. But I'd punched myself out, so I just had no power in my hand. So he turned his back anyway. And I tried to be fancy and did some funky freaking armbar or whatever, but it just failed miserably. He ended up getting the decision anyway. But I had a look at these gloves actually after in the box, and I was like, holy fuck, they were lead shot. So they were lead shot
Oh.
gloves. Yeah. So anyway,
And they
so
did.
I was
And
like,
wow,
hey,
you. That's
yeah, man,
hardcore.
like, yeah, and he'd beat fuck out. My face was a fucking mess. But um, but I was like, yo, like just check these gloves. And I think one of his mates went past, grabbed the gloves, and fucked off. I was like, fuck, that is so fucked up.
That's fucked.
So yeah, he ended up getting the decision. But I tell you what, he didn't win that fight. He didn't win that fucking fight. One, if he'd have worn normal gloves, I'd have fucking blazed him up, even with my cardio as bad as it was. But he must have gone home and just thought, holy shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was still happy because he'd hit me with everything.
He'll remember you.
Extra. And I still fucking stood there and did the whole full fucking 20 minutes. So yeah, I don't think they wanted somebody from England to win. But yeah, it was still cool, it's just one of them, and it was all part of the experience, all part of the journey. So I was happy.
Did you ever end up later on training with Frank afterwards?
No, not after that. We did a bit Lions Den, and then like I say, they fell out. So at that point, then I think after IFC, because it kind of it went down a bit. No one was really training, and I was like, sod this, I'm off to Japan. So I literally went, same thing. I got my bag, I went to Japan, and then ended up hooking up with a friend, and then this friend knew another friend, and I was like, do you know where Pancrase Labs is? And they were like, yeah, it's in Hiro in Tokyo. So I was like, right, I'm off. So I'm going down. Nobody was there. I didn't knock on the door. I just kind of walked in. And Genki was there. So, and he spoke English, which was kind of fortunate. So I'm like, how you doing? He goes, oh, yeah, I'm Genki Sudo. And I didn't know him at that time. Obviously, after speaking to him, he was like some big, like shit hot one. He was really good. Great wrestler as well, actually. Not a lot of people realize that his MMA skill, his background was from wrestling. He was on Japan's team, I think, if I remember rightly. So he's really fucking good. And a lot of the stuff that I learned, there were two main people, really. Well, actually three or four. Probably four main people that I sparred with every single day for about 6 months. And that was Kaoru Uno, Genki Sudo, Akihiro Gono, and there was Sasake, and there's also Kikuta. Kikuta was one of the main guys that taught me butterfly guard. He kind of immersed me into what the guard really, really was, because his judo was absolutely phenomenal. I think he went against Henzo for like 53 minutes.
Yeah.
And Henzo didn't pass his guard. He ended up getting him in guillotine.
So you sparred with these guys for 6 months. That's amazing, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, which was why I ended up being half decent,
Yeah.
When I came back, because, obviously when my mum got ill, I had to turn down the Pancrase contract. But when I got back, like, it didn't matter who I went up against. I just burnt everyone, anybody that was doing UFC that had come from England, if I sparred with them, or, the M1 team that did the M1 global thing, I sparred with every single one of the guys, including the heavyweights, and I burnt them all. Wow. It wasn't really hard. The only guys, you know what I mean? Like, Genki was shit hot at that time. He was really fucking good. And Karo was pretty good, but Kikuta as well. He was awesome. Like, technically, absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. He was phenomenal. And a great guy.
I think Genki is actually a politician now.
Yeah, he's yeah, mate, he's done so much. Did you see his his group that he did?
No, I didn't, but
you didn't, this man. I'll send you a link. Yeah, man. I can't remember what it's called. World something or other. Did the Japanese World Peace Festival, and it's like they're like a band of like breakdancers, and they all do this stuff together. Like, he's really, really talented, but he's also well connected. I mean, obviously, Pancrase isn't your and like Pride, they're not your above board type of organizations. There's a few little apples in there, chrysanthemum type taboo apples in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, which is why obviously, when I turned down that contract, I'd never fight in Japan again, which was cool. I was happy with that, like I say, my journey's always been a different one, and the way I see it, the guy upstairs is always, he's always steered me right. He's put me through a lot of shit, and I've hated him for it until I didn't. But I get it. I understand why, and you know, you think your story is important when it's in front of everybody's faces, but at the end of the day, when the story ends, what's in front of people's faces is completely irrelevant to you know to the message in it.
Absolutely. Now, from what I remember, I was reading, you also trained in Brazil a lot.
Yeah, I trained in Brazil. So I met so one of my old students put me in touch with
You speak Portuguese, by the way?
I did, mate. Like, I lived in Brazil when I was a kid, like till I
Okay.
was about 6, and I could speak it fluently. I can't speak a fucking word of it now. Like, I can do little bits. If I go to Brazil, I can communicate. But it's not fluent at all. But yeah, I went there quite a bit. So I go probably 3 4 times a year just to train. So like I say, got a lot of love for the guy. Vinicius Amarel. He great at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, absolutely fantastic guy. Um, there was a bit of a clash of interests. I just didn't like the political aspect of what was going on. So I kind of left him. I said, "Look, I love you, mate, but I don't really want to go down this path because I don't really agree with what's going on." Um, and then, and I was kind of right. I was a bit. It was early days for me, kind of seeing what was going on. But, when I'm just so disillusioned now with the kind of state of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's really, if somebody can say that Higa Machido's now a first degree black belt, and when he's a coral belt, and then say unless he does
Yeah.
this or jumps through this hoop, I just don't agree with it, mate. But at that time, I trained in Brazil, and I trained with what the game fights top team, top guys. So I was fortunate enough to really learn and get myself in there. I taught in the favelas, which was nice. Obviously they're not the pretty, they're not the prettiest places in the world, but when people know that you're helping the kids out, um, then yeah, the M16s are facing the floor and not your head, which is always a good sign. Um, and then on the flip side of that, I ended up rolling with the Rio Police. I did a seminar for Metro Rio Police Nogi team and stuff, and I rolled with those guys. Um, and that was good. They learned a lot. They were happy that I'd gone there, and I gave them food for thought. So yeah, they enjoyed that. I met some really nice guys there as well, and they've got their work cut out for them. So it was nice to be able to teach on both sides of that fence, Um, yeah, and the experience was great, and got a great tan. I want to go back. It's great.
You know, you have a really interesting background in terms of martial arts because being from the UK, I can imagine it was definitely much different, your MMA journey, because in the UK it wasn't as known as in other places of the world.
Yeah,
You had an amazing, I guess, shoot fighting, shoot wrestling type of catch wrestling background, Pancrase, and you go to
yeah.
jiu-jitsu. You have great wrestling. Where did you learn your wrestling from? Because your wrestling is really good too.
Well, I ended up when I was in Chico. I was fortunate enough to train with a couple of guys that wrestled at Chico State, and obviously, like when you do some of the wrestling with states, you'd get other states coming over. So I ended up, kind of wrestling with a few guys, picking up things here and there. But the way my head works, so I'm a bit of an ADHD spaz. So the way my head works, if I see something that's really, really good, I'll break it down and I'll continue to do it and I'll rinse it and I'll rinse it until I get it perfect. Then when it's perfect, then I can apply it in any situation and then I'm good to go, really. So that was my gift. So yeah, that's kind of why my wrestling's not too bad.
Now, you have a school in Halifax, right? Halifax is in North England. You guys have a
Yeah.
weird accent up there, but at the end of the day, uh, how do you like, what is your curriculum that you teach there? Because it's quite a diverse program you have.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So that would be like a couple of days a week. So that's gi. When I say I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I put on a gi for that. I don't so anyway. So but the twist that I do that I have with the way that I do the gi is a lot of people that work the gi always hit positions on their knees. So the way I see it, the way I break it down, when you're on your knees, then the contact with your knees and the mat isn't sufficient enough to hold your position. You need your hips in. So, or like my side controls, my mounts, my hips are as close to the floor as possible, and my legs are as wide as possible. And if I'm in the mount, I'll pinch with my knees, and I won't. Or I'll lace the leg as if you're pinning. So a lot of my positions are very, very different to traditional BJJ. Um, they're kind of more judo-y in terms of pressure position. But then obviously I'll incorporate the gi grips, the lapel, the sleeves, the spider guard, so on and so forth. Then in the week, so I'll do also I'll do catch and freestyle. So obviously with the freestyle wrestling, it's all freestyle stuff. So it's all pin stuff. So, you're looking at mat returns, cradles, pins, so on and so forth, throws, and then circling, a lot of hand fighting. So we've got got a good couple of guys for the freestyle, and then obviously the catch as well. So we've just one of my guys. He did really well in the Worlds against Brett Farr, and he's a name in rest, freestyle, and catch that's been quite prevalent in the game for quite a while. And he did he's only been doing catch. Honestly, mate, he his background was just jiu-jitsu, and I think I taught him for 2 years, just 2 years, and I've managed to get him to a point where his wrestling's good enough to deal with somebody like that. So he did a really, really good job. He's actually doing a seminar with Frank actually this weekend in Italy or something. Um, so I'll be
Yeah,
learning a bit
Scientific
more then.
Wrestling, I think, is doing it there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. So
yeah.
he's gone to that. So I'm sure he'll pick up a t-shirt. But he met Frank there, so it was funny because Frank said, "Oh, where'd you learn those leg locks? They're really good." And then he mentioned me, and he's like, "Ah," so that was quite nice to get, to get to say hello to Frank a little bit. So yeah.
Here's another thing I'm thinking. So, as a BJJ black belt that also teaches catch wrestling, how do you blend these two grappling styles in your teaching methodology? Like,
Mm. So for me, I suppose it's similar in a way to what Chris Houter says in terms of you want to be on a top position. So in terms of you do not want to be in guard unless you can't help it. This is the way, this is what I believe. Like, especially against somebody that can wrestle and can do jujitsu. It's okay going against a wrestler that has no submission or no jujitsu ability whatsoever. That's fine. But when you come up against a wrestler that does know the little tricks of a triangle, little tricks of a armbar, little tricks of baiting you into using your force to get behind it, it's different. So for me, it's you're smashing. Really, you're wrestling with a gi on, but you're aware of the angles that you can get put in if you're going overzealous with your game. So it's basically, so if you feel like you're going to have to pull guard, you're pulling guard on the premise that you're looking for a way to get back to your feet. If you catch something on the way, that's fine, but you're not waiting for the openings. So what I see, I mean, generally The difference between BJJ and wrestling is in BJJ, you're waiting for an opportunity to catch a submission. In wrestling, you're forcing your way into an opening, whereas you're not waiting for an opening. That's the biggest thing, and that's what I tell my guys. So whether you're in a gi, whether you're in a singlet, whether you're in your underpants late at night because somebody's like knocked on your door, it doesn't really matter. Your whole thing is to make that opening happen and not to wait for that opening to happen. So obviously that demands that you physically need to be in a position and mentally in a position where you can push and push and push and push and push, and you're looking to make that opening, and you don't stop until you found that opening. So it's the same as basically your chain wrestling. So and it's not chain wrestling in terms of when people say chain wrestling, they think it's just doing one move after another, and a lot of people throw that term around loosely now, and it's because I believe they don't really know what it means. So, and I was trying to explain this to the guys the other night. So, for example, if I do a takedown, if I do a move, say I do an arm drag, or say I want to do a go behind. If I do a go behind, it's got to either come off them moving forward, so I can drop and maybe do a duck under. So they've got to instigate that move for me to do that thing. If I do that duck under and he steps back, I've got to follow that up. So I've got to chain that up. But if I do that duck under with the intensity and the forthrightness of mind to get that move, what it's going to do, it's going to set a chain reaction to put him on his back foot. If I don't get that move the first time and I've gone for full penetration and I'm really looking to cross that center line, then my next move is going to be a lot closer. And then my next move is going to be a lot closer. So I've got to do that first move with penetration to make that second move closer, to make that third move closer. So this is what people don't understand about chain wrestling. They don't understand the concept of deep penetration and following and forcing it and creating that opening. So you've got to keep that pressure on. And by keeping that pressure on, you've got to have the fitness and you've got to have the determination and you've got to have the technique and you've got to repeat the techniques of chain wrestling down to be able to make sure that you do finish that move. And then once you get the takedown, you've got to follow that up. You've got to get the arm, you've got to turn them over, whatever it is, and get that pin, or you get that submission, but you keep that pressure on. I think that's something that people kind of lack. Now, there's a couple of reasons why that happens. One, because the majority of people are hobbyists. They don't want to train like that. They might do a 9 to 5. They're like, oh, I'm gonna do BJJ tonight, so I'm gonna stick my gi on and stick my blue belt on and gonna do a bit of this and a bit of that, do some guard passing, and there's no real kind of finish. There's no real determination. But ironically, it's the guys that have 3 kids that are 40, 50 years old that feel that they do need to put that pressure on, that become a little bit more than a handful. And it's not the fact that they're on, it's not the fact that they're not fit, it's the fact that they understand that they're not going to let things go. They've got to continue to get that win, so it's a little less relaxed. It's a little bit more intense, I think, what I'm getting at, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's all about the goal, and then obviously there's like subconscious goals. Like someone might say, "Oh, I want to get a little bit better," but inside they're older, they want to prove themselves, and they might go a bit harder. Also, they're worried about injuries sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. Which is interesting because you were a very high level professional fighter. So when you come and teach these guys, my question is, what lessons do you find yourself conveying to them that they don't have because they weren't professional fighters in their martial arts journey? Like, what do you convey to them as a professional fighter going to that hobbyist?
Well, I don't know.
It's a bit of a deep question. I apologize, but
No,
it's an interesting one.
it's fine. Can you just kind of reframe it a bit? I'm a bit lost in
Okay. So you got a lot, like most of the people coming into a gym generally are hobbyists, okay?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Now, a lot of people who train hobbyists, sometimes a lot of them are hobbyists, okay? But you weren't. You were a samurai. You were on the war. You understand? You're a fighter. So what lessons do you give them from being a fighter that, because they're not a fighter, is there, maybe I'm not making sense. And if I'm not, that's
No,
fine.
you are making sense, and this is a problem I have in terms of actually teaching, and this is actually it does become, it becomes a problem, and a bit of a bit of a, how do I say, not label, stigma, maybe something like that. So it's very similar to the reputation of the Lion's Den. All right. So um and you've got other schools. So there's a couple of the schools that are local. Now, they don't have the background. There's not, there's very few people that have the background in the country that I have. And most, like most of them are like probably currently fighting, or, quite, like Bisping, and we've got Paddy Pimblett, and we've got, Aspinall. God, mate, poor guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so, but other than that, there's not many people that have that kind of level of experience, we'll say. So, but then you get the BJJ hobbyists that open up the gym. Now, the BJJ hobbyist gyms and the hobbyist competitors, like the local ADCC and, the whatevers, they're still not massive in terms of, you know, um, it's still very much a hobbyist thing. I mean, it's getting there, but it's a majority of them are hobbyists. So it's really palatable and appealing to people that want to get into it but don't really want to get into it, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I do have a problem. Now, there's a couple of problems here. One of them is you get the other gyms that know who I am, and they'll be like, it's too hard for you. You won't want to go there. You'll get beaten up, and it's not the truth, but it's something that, the insecure, that screams insecurity. And it's, obviously that's kind of what they need to do to get revenue or whatever. Now, that's not my game. It's never has been. I've got nothing to prove. I've got nothing to take away. It's just what I do. And that's it. If you want to come and ride on my train, then come along. But so what I find myself doing is I have to tone down some of the stuff that I do. And it's almost like I have certain groups that I can train with and train hard with. So that's like, I've probably got about four or five guys that I can train with, other than that, it just becomes a little bit difficult. So I've had other people in the past that I've taught. I mean, this was straight out the Lion's Den, nicely and admittedly, people have said, I'm sorry, they left me back in the day, and then they went and made their own kind of gyms, poached a load of students, and then went and claimed fame, but then never thanked me for it, or never made note of the fact that I taught them. You know what I mean? Which is cool. Yeah. It's fine, whatever. But they've come back to me later and gone, I'm sorry I kind of did that, and I'm sorry I left, but honestly, it's taken me a long time to be able to admit this, but it was just too hard. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do the training. I couldn't go through it. And it's like, fair enough. But had you have accepted that in the first place, you'd have probably gone further, because you'd have accepted responsibility and you'd have been able to push through that. And that, unfortunately, that's very much a British mentality. You don't really get it in the US. You don't really get it, with the Iranians. You don't really get it with the Russians. They're quite happy to accept their weaknesses so they could go through it. But here, it's almost like, they're weak. They don't want to show that they're weak, because otherwise it detracts from being strong. But it's counterproductive, because it's exactly the opposite, But not all of them have admitted it. Some of them still believe that they're in this place of this high up place, and that they're untouchable and they know the game and this, that, and the other, and they're in this kind of deluded sphere of hobbyist hierarchy. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so in terms of teaching and in terms of how I go about that, it's it's recognized for me. It's recognizing the potential of each individual when they walk through the door. You know, I mean, this year I've only just started teaching kids because I couldn't. I found it hard to not want somebody to be really good at what they do. I found it really hard to say, right, you just do this and just do that and then do this, because I enjoy doing what I do. I enjoy teaching and I enjoy watching them improve to the point where they're just awesome. Nothing makes me happier than to watch somebody get awesome.
Yeah.
Like I say, when Dan went and he fought Brett Favre in the Worlds, I couldn't have been prouder. Just over that short space of time, and he was not, and he is not. He was not a natural wrestler at all. He was like really, really difficult difficult, awkward movement to start with. Sorry, Dan, if you're watching this, you're still a fucking legend. But he was like really, really awkward, and I spent a lot of time getting him, to change. He couldn't even shoot in, man. To like literally a week, I'd say a month before the Worlds, I only just got him basically closing the gap, shooting in, being able to penetrate and duck walk in. When he got that single on Brett, I was just like, awesome. Honestly, like I got goosebumps. And so just the last person you'd imagine, and he just did everything so fucking well. And I think it shocked him. I think it shocked him to the point that his ass went at the end. Like when he got to a position, I think it looked like he was trying to go for a spladle. But I think he's he brain farted, and ended up losing position. But still, just everything up to there, he linked it so well, and it did really well. So, nothing makes me happier than to do that. But then at the same time, if it's their mind that carries them. So it's basically trying to figure out when they walk through the door what kind of, which place they're going to fit in. And what I tend to do so for me, the ultimate is freestyle, right? And that's not because there's no submissions. It's because it's really fucking hard to pin somebody and keep them there.
Especially when there's no submissions.
Yeah.
Then it's so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. It's so hard. And if you can do that really, really well, once you can do that really, really well, and then you know a couple of submissions, you're killing everyone. You're killing
sure.
everyone. So, and it's like I always say, you get a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Sorry, you get a championship wrestler, and he's got a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu. He's always going to be the black belt in Jiu-Jitsu that's done a year in wrestling. Because it's just the positions and the hand fighting and the angles and the body position, the conditioning, the neck, everything is just on such a bigger
The
level.
use of pressure everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Just, the explosive and dynamic pressure, and yeah, absolutely. So I think when somebody comes in, it's kind of like, because I have freestyle, I have catch, I have MMA, I have kickboxing, and did I say jiu-jitsu?
Yeah,
so
you
I've
didn't
got,
say jiu-jitsu yet.
right. So I got BJJ. So there's 5 aspects. So when somebody walks in, I can kind of look at them and just go, okay, depending on their stature and size. So just through their own physical thing, I can say, right, he ain't going to wrestle yet. So I'll stick him in a gi. That's going to develop his grip strength. It's going to develop his core. It's going to help him possibly put a little bit of size on, slow him down a little bit, because they're always quick and, slippery when that. Then I might get the big guy in. So I might be like, okay, so let's stick him into MMA, maybe drop a few pounds or whatever. So then I might get the flexible guy. So I'll be like, all right, maybe stick him into freestyle, actually, because he's going to be able to get out a few things, but he's still got, he's got the flexibility and probably the core strength to be able to do what he's doing. And so I'm kind of like, and then you've got the mental aptitude as well. Might get somebody that's being bullied or whatever, give them a bit of confidence, stick on some gloves, kick a few bags, start taking some hits, start body checking, then move them from that into MMA, then from MMA, move them into, so it's kind of like, it's fitting them in as they develop. So I'm kind of monitoring where they're at in the headspace, not just in the headspace, but physically. Sometimes
Yeah.
they might physically not be in the right thing for one thing, but the headspace might be. So I'll stick them into that. So it just depends on what the ratio is really to where I stick them. But I'm kind of good at doing that, which so I get the best out of them.
Oh man, that's absolutely. You sound like a great coach. This is the
Oh,
way
thanks, man.
you tailor make it for each student. You want them to do well. You want them to improve. I think it's really interesting that you just started training kids now from a good point. I think now you're ready to, because with kids you have to, kids, you can't be so perfectionist with kids. You need to first train the attributes, and also there's a learning curve. If they're not having fun, they usually aren't going to learn. But that is another thing. Like and you can tell a lot by a coach from how they train kids. So, what do you hope to instill in these young students for
Mm,
life?
gosh. Well, obviously, discipline in terms of being able to being in a position where they can kind of self-regulate and understand what's positive and negative, so they're disciplined in their attitude towards what they're doing. I think also, you know, managing stress is a big thing. So because their energy is going all over the place. So being able to focus in one area is really really important. So the ability through discipline, being able to focus, and then through that focus have a goal, and then being able to reach that goal, seeing it through, finishing what they start. That's a really really underrated thing. I think that's really really important. Motor skills, fine motor skills, strength, and also self-defense,
Yes.
self-preservation, morality, you know
Oh yeah.
um you know uh honor, respect, the things that have seemed to have taken a back seat, unfortunately, in the world. My mission's to bring those back and have a new influx of these good people to be able to lead what's the next generation, instead of people looking at phones or tablets 24 hours a bloody day.
Absolutely. You know, we're getting near the end here because I'm sure you have to also do stuff. And I'm noticing you have an interesting T-shirt there. That
Oh yeah,
the Isle
Isle of
of Man
Man.
TT.
It's great.
Have you been to one of those?
I've never raced in one, but I go every year. So yeah, I'd love to race. Somebody gave me a bike and said, "See how fast you can go around there." I'd fucking do it.
How
Um,
how how is it? I heard it's amazing.
oh, it's
The
awesome, mate.
atmosphere.
Yeah, I'll see you next year. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Yeah, oh, absolutely amazing, mate. It really is. Yeah, like it's such a great thing with it being all on an island. I mean, it's 37 and 3/4 miles around the Isle of Man. So it literally goes around, and you can literally go anywhere around the track and watch and get a beer. And it's just fantastic. All the different, bike events, the super stocks, the super bikes, the
Oh yeah.
sidecars, the twins, all the different sounds, and just the actual, the feeling, the vibe, the people, and just walking around the grandstand as well, just checking out the bikes, and if you get a chance having a chat with the riders and stuff, it's great, mate. It's absolutely fantastic, and the island itself is lovely, absolutely fantastic island.
So
You
one
know,
day, it's on my bucket list. I don't know if this year, the year
good.
after, we're gonna do it once.
We are,
And
mate.
that's gonna be fun time. Les, how can people find you? How can find your school, your socials?
Yeah, well, on Instagram, I'm under LA Hybrid Catch and BJJ. Um, Yep. So the HQ, the headquarters is in Halifax, which is North England, West Yorkshire. I've got affiliates as well that are part of an affiliate program that I do. So they do when it's overseas. I do a lot of online content, tutorials that I have on my website. I should do a YouTube thing. I will do. Just let me get around to it. I'm a busy man. But there's Uruguay, Oz. Yep. I'll also like collaborate with PCI Jiu Jitsu
Uh-huh.
and you guys. So we've got one in Todmorden, which is North England. There's York as well, and there's one in Sawbury Bridge, which is in Halifax also. There's a couple dotted around. Primarily, they're under the BJJ and the hybrid catch stuff. So if you can't get to me, you'll still get good amount of training there, and you'll always have the opportunity to cross train at my place anyway for free if you're a member of any of those gyms.
And I'll be putting all of Les's stuff in the description, so if you want to check it out. I've seen a lot of instructors around the world. Being in this for a long time as well, I'm not the greatest, but I do have a good head for it, and I can say Les is at the top of the game here, and you should check him out, definitely.
Thanks, man.
Les, man, it's been such a pleasure. I'd like to have you on again. You are truly a gem in the world of this mixed martial
Thanks,
arts
man.
and grappling.
That's to
And
be appreciated.
I just want to say thank you very much for having the time to come on. And listen, until next time, if you can like and subscribe, that'd be great. That'd help me. And if not, also don't. But anyways, have a great day and grab, throw, tap. Bye.
Thank you, mate. See you later.